Okay, we're in the middle of sugya of tshuva, gzar din, and different svarim being opened. And we had a memra of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that greatest tshuva, that it rips up the gzar din of a person. So we had a few challenges to that. We had the chalukim, whether it's a yachid versus a rabbim, right? Whether it's a yachid versus a rabbim, and whether it's before the gzar din or after the gzar din. That was like, so he wanted to say that for tzibur, for yachid after gzar din is too late. For tzibur even after the gzar din is okay. Now it was accepted that the gzar din of a yachid can't be ripped up. That was accepted, and the Gemara now is going to challenge that. We're on up to Yud Ches Amid Aleph. We are one line from the top. So it says. So we're Yud Ches Amid Aleph. We are one line from the top. For Gzar Din the Yachid Tanahi, whether the Gzar Din of a Yachid can be ripped up. Not as machlokes tanoim. We took it on that it can't be ripped up after the gzar din, and the tziba could be. The Tanya. Two people are sick. The chaylin shavin. They have the same disease. Two people are brought in front of on capital punishment charge. Vidina shavin. Again, exact same charge. Right? One person gets out of the bed, another person doesn't get out of the bed. One person's safe from the court case, the other person's not safe from the court case. They might say Yori to Sevel. What's the difference? This one's davins and he's answered, and this one's davin, he's not answered. Rashi says bikavana. This person does bikavana. Nena, he's answered. This person who did not go ahead and answer, he is not. Here's now. Where's Hamachlekes Tanoim? Rabbi Eliezer kan koidim gzar din, kan le'achar gzar din. So Rabbi Eliezer holds that that after the gzar din it's too late. That's after the gzar din is too late. Rabbi Yitzchak no. Yafet tza'akal adam. It's good for a person to cry out. Bein koidim gzar din, bein le'achar gzar din. Right? Okay. And therefore it's okay. So the chayra, it's the machlokes between Rav Yitzchak and Rav Eliezer whether gzar din of a yachid helps after the whether tefillah helps after the gzar din. Like Rav Yitzchak, it does help, and like Rav Eliezer, it doesn't help. And that's the point that we began to share with because I didn't the yachid tanoy it's machlokes tanoyim. Fred the Gemara because I didn't tzibur mi mikra. It's the gzar din of a tzibur ripped up. We named on that the gzar tzibur yes they can be yachid can be tzibur so yachid not tzibur yes that the gzar din of a tzibur is ripped up after it's done. For kosev echad oimer one pasuk says kivsi mirah libeich. That's mashma that it gets washed away. Uksiv it says kiyim tichbesi beneser v'taybi lecha buryas nechtam avoynech lefanai. Mashma that nechtam is a lashon of kesem. It's a stain that even afterwards there's a rishima that it's not ripped away. My love kan koidim gzar din kan la'achar gzar din. Before the gzar din it gets washed away. After the gzar din it doesn't get washed away. So you see the gzar din of a tzibur doesn't get washed away. So no, either la'achar gzar din. They're both speaking after gzar din. How come one is a roshim and one doesn't have a roshim? Why does one have a stain? If it remains after gzar din, you tell me that tzibur can be cleansed. Why does one remain? It's stained like kasha. Kam gzar din sheyeshi ma shua, kam gzar din she'einu ma shua. Depends. If it's a gardin that has a shrew with it, the stain remains. If it doesn't go washed away, because area that doesn't have any shmuel gets washed away. Kidav Shmuel Barami, Dam Rav Shmuel Rami, Bimila Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani Amar Rav Yonasan. Minayin legzardin sheyeshi ma shua shein nikra shneimar. Okay, background, guys. Background. We had this before. Shmuel Aleph, right? There are Eli is the kohen in Shiloh. He's got two sons, Chafni and Pinchas. We learned this Gemara in Shabbos Nun Hey. They're accused of two things. They're accused of bisi kachim, they're eating before the time, before Zrikas Adam, and they're accused of aroyos, which is so what happened? They would make the woman wait because the woman would bring poultry. They'd bring birds, and they would want to have a steak. So they make them wait. Them stopping the husbands from going home, the wives from going home, the husband could be Isaac and Perivivia is tantamount to what? Aroyas. That was the Gemara. And as a result of them being Mavasa Kotchim, they're cursed. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says that that Bnei Eli, this is the Gemara, that Bnei Eli, they won't live a long time. They won't live a long time, and we're going to see why. Because it's the Gezai Din of HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a shvua with it. And here's the shvua. here's the Gemara. You had a question? You wanted to say something?
No, sure, I know what a shvua meant.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so wait. So now here's the shvua. For example, Minayin leGezai Din sheyesh shema shvua she'ein nekra shnemar. U'lechein nishbati lebeis Eli. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Shmuel, therefore I swear lebeis Eli, im yischaper avoin beis Eli, b'zevach u'b'mincha. If the oven of Bnei Eli could be mechaper b'zevach u'b'mincha with a carbon or with a mincha. Amar Rava or Amar Rabba b'zevach u'mincha ein miskaper avol miskaper b'toira. They won't get a kapara b'zevach u'mincha, but they would get a kapara with toira. Abaya Amar b'zevach u'mincha ein miskaper avol miskaper b'toira gemilas chasadim. But if you do both toira and gemilas chasadim, they would get a kapara. Right. So you see, toira is the great what? Is the great solution, literally, to everything, right?
They died at 20 years old.
Rabba of Abaya mid the base Eli Kasu. Rabba and Abaya were from the house of Eli. Rabba the Osik B'Torah Chaya Arboyin Shinin. Rabba that was Osik in Torah lived for 40 years. Abaya the Osik B'Torah Ubi Milas Chasadim Chaya Shisin Shnin. He would go ahead and live for what? For 60 years. So there's a beautiful marsha. And Yevamis Daf Kuf Hey, Marsha says like this: Mina Shemayim. When's a person? What's the age of person is Mechayiv in Shemayim? 20. Person's about running Shemayim at 20 years old, right? So what do we say? That he's living to 20, right? That's the age limit, 20. Now, Rabbah was Isaac and Torah is Mechaper, so you get another 20 years is 40. Abaye was supposed to go out and Torah Gemilas Chasadim, so he got 240. He got 20 to that. He's not a Baronish till 20. He got 20 for Torah. They got 20 for Gemilas Chasadim. Therefore, he lived to 60. That's where you get the cheshbon. No, it's not long. Well, again, when you're supposed to die young, every extension is long. Okay, good. This is Chen Nishmata. Tan Rabbanan. Mishpacha Achasai B'Shalayim. There was a Mishpacha in B'Shalayim. Shaya Mesim Asim Ben Yud Cheshan. They were dying at 18. Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, they came in the form of Yochanan and Zakkai. Yom Lehem, Shem Mishpachas Eliatem. Maybe you're from the Mishpacha of Eli. Yechsiv Bey, it says the Chol Marbis Beischa Yemusu Anoshim. Anyone who raised the house, they will die. So Lechu Vaska B'Torah, go learn the Chayu. They went and they lived. Holcha Vaska B'Torah, V'Chayu V'Hayakarin. I saw Mishpachas Rabbi Yochanan Shma. They called them Mishpachas Rabbi Yochanan on the desk. That's the Gemara in Yevamis. So I'm going to have Shmuel about Inya. Shmeid Rav Minayin leGezai Din Shel Tzibur She'eino Nechtam. How do you know that Eino Nechtam? It's not signed. Eino Nechtam Aksiv Nichtam Avoynech Lefanai. El Afagav Shenechtam Nikra. How do you know it's signed? It's what that it's ripped up. Shenema, because the pasuk says Kimi Goy Gadol Asher Lo Yelakim Krevim Olav Ki Hashem Elokeinu Bechol Karveinu Olav. So when you call out to him, so it's mashma. Anytime you call out to Kadosh Baruch Hu, your Gezai Din will be ripped up. Good. Fred the Gemara of Aksiv, there Hashem is behemoth. So it's mashma. You can't do it at any time. Mashma dafka at a specific time. It says Hasan biyachid hacha b'tzibur. By yachid, it's dafka during the der Hashem behemoth. So that's the time. And hacha b'tzibur what in here what? Anytime is the tzibur. Biyachid emas. When is the der Hashem behemoth? So when exactly is that time? So I'm a rabba baravua. Elu asar yavim shein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. These are the 10 days that between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. That's the days that he can be found. Okay, there's another Maisa that will bring. What? That it's only for Yachid. It's only for Yachid. Yachid emas. Except for its sibitz b'chol karenu. It's any time. But for Yachid, dear Hashem b'himatzai. Now there's a Maisa in when David, before he became the king, so he had men who followed him, and they had worked for a person named Novel. They worked for a person named Novel Ish Carmeli, and he owed them wages. Novel owed them wages. David sent some men to collect the wages, and he gave a zug. He said, basically, he's not going to pay him anyway. David's going to go kill him. David held him that he was married to Malchus. He was going to kill him. Abigail comes out and stops him from killing him. Right. So what happened? Abigail brought to David a tremendous banquet of food, different things. When Novel heard what she brought, he had a stroke. He had a stroke, and for 10 days he remained alive. Says the Gemara. Vayikaser Sayamim, it was 10 days. Vayikav Hashem es Novel, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed Novel. He died. Yud Yomim Maya Vidataya. What's these 10 days? They gave him 10 swallows of some sweets to the Avdei David when they came to go ahead and ask for the wages. But Nachman says, Nachman Amar Rabba Bar Avua, Elu Yud Yom Shein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. These are what the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So like this, just to summarize, like Rabbi Eliezer, and the Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana, the Bryson Yud Zayin with Beis, a Yachid's able to have his Gzar Din ripped up, Rak al Yedei during the 10 days of Tshuva, but during the rest of the days of the year, not. Only during the 10 days of Tshuva. So Yitzchak said what? That even Kol Hashanah, you can go ahead and get it ripped up. And Rabbi Yitzchak says that what? Kol Hashanah and everyone, and that even the Yachid can have it ripped up during during the Seres Tshuva, and everyone holds that the B'tzibur, it can be ripped up what? The whole year. The tzibur rat can be ripped up the whole year. Okay. Anyway, so he held Machlokas Rabbi Yitzchak held what? Not during the 10 days, even the whole year, because is possible. That Yafa, Rabbi Yitzchak said, guys, Yafa Tzaka, even after Gazadin. That was the Yafa Tzaka Lord and Ben Kaidim Gazadin, Ben Lacha Gazadin. And Rabbi Eliezer said, no, just during Yasesh Metshuva. For Rosh Hashanah, Kabbalah Yolam away from the fun of K'nei Moran. So the Gemara wants to touch what's Lashon B'nei Moran, right? On Rosh Hashanah, all the Bayolam come in front of him.
That's your backup phone? Your first phone's going your second phone?
I'll see you. Call. Anyway, so what's Lashon B'nei Moran, guys? Lashon Kol Olam passes in front of B'nei Moran. What does that mean? Okay, so one one maybe that. My B'nei Moran, Hacha here Tergimu B'nei Imrana, like sheep. So that's what we think. Like when you put sheep in the pen and they come out of the pen, and if to be Maisa, right? Kim Aman. Shlaka Sharma says Kimailis base Choydoin or base Moran. Guys, remember the picture in Erevin, the guys on the side of the mountain walking up, holding walking up the ski slope? I remember it. He was going up, holding on to two things. In other words, it's a very steep path that people can't go through, two people at the same time. So you're going up like that place, because you're there, right? So Rav Yehuda Mashmul Chayol Shel Beis David, like when they counted that, they went to war like the armies of David. Amar Rabbi Archan Rav Yochanan, Kulin Niskorim B'Skira Achas. Because Baruch Hu sees them in one glance. He sees everything in one glance. Amar Nachman Yitzchak Afanan Mitanina. We also learned this. It says Hayoytze Yachad Libam. The pasuk says Mimchoin Shiftoi Hashkiach El Kol Yoshvei Haaretz. Mimoroin Shiftoi Hashkiach. And as he looks, he can see from above. He sees everything. In one time, so we see he views them all at once. My kamar, what does it mean? The branu kuliyama they're all the same. We see people are not the same. Everyone has a different mind. Everyone has a different mindset. Everyone has different types. The one who created him, sees them at one glance. He understands el kol ma'aseyim, each and everyone's actions. Okay, we know that. Again, this is I'm just repetitious, but I always repeat things because I never know what you remember. I never know if I remember, so I repeat it. So we know that there's two, when you Mekadosh Levana, right? Adam would come, and there's two possibilities. It could either be on the 30th day or the 31st day. If it's on the 30th day, then the past month is called the Chaser. Means there were 29 days in the month, and Rechayish is the 30th day. It's the first day of the next month. Conversely, if you don't have Edis that come to Mekadosh Levana on the 30th day, automatically it becomes about Kodesh on the 31st day, and the previous month is called a Mole. It's called Mole. Now, we have a calendar. Hillel is mataking the calendar. Be very, very careful. It's not Hillel Azakin. It's not the Tana Hillel. It's the Moira Hillel. It's a descendant of Hillel, but it's not Moira. He was mataking the calendar. when they stopped being Mekadesh the Levana, he was Metakim the calendar. So therefore, everything we now have is exact. But in those days, it wasn't. Those days, it's a mitzvah to do with the Kiddush Levana. It's a mitzvah to Mekadesh the Chodesh mitzvah. And so how would you inform the people who weren't local, right? So this is discussing the days that they would go out, the times they would go out to inform the people, when they would send shluchim to inform the people as to certain dates. And that's the discussion of this Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Al Shisha Chadoshim HaShluchim Yotzim, 6 months the shluchim go out. 6 months the shluchim go out. When are the 6 months? Al Nisan if they have Pesach. They go out on Nisan to tell them when Pesach is. Al Av if they had Tainis. On Tisha, on Av, tell them about Tisha B'Av. Al Elul Mifnei Rosh Hashanah. Now Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, so you have to send them out on Elul that they should know exactly when. Now, Elul might be Malach Chasa, so we said Oilam is Chasa. Oilam is Chasa. We said right. We said Oilam. They never. We had 2 times in the Gemara. Never saw an Elul that was Malay. Right. So therefore, you would remember. Al Tishrei Mifnei Takonas HaMoedos. They would send on Tishrei to know when Yom Kippur is and when Sukkot is. Al Kislev Mifnei Chanukah.
If you know when Hashanah is, they should know when Yom Kippur is.
What?
They just have to count 10 days.
That's what they're doing.
I thought you said you send them out again for Yom Kippur.
It says Al Elul Mifnei Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, and you're asking why do you have to send on Tishrei? Okay, it's a good kasha. Okay, we'll see. It's a good kasha.
Well, that would be Pesach. All the it's Rosh Chodesh, then they know automatically. They count 15
That's
days.
what they're doing. So they got to know when this is, so they can count 10 days.
So they got to know when Elul is.
So they
But
don't.
they know,
they
but when
don't
they send
send
out
out-
Tishrei again,
Yeah.
another month later, they have to send that again. You're right. Just like the Pesach, they count it. They should count it and get these.
Okay, so now it says Val Elul Mifnei Rosh Hashanah. Tosa says Modiin Masai Maskal Elul. They would tell him when Elul starts. For Oysa Rosh Hashanah b'yam Shloishim leElul b'Goyla. They make it on the 30th day. V'Gal Machrosai also the next day. Kidemasha Perakama debates. They make it 2 days. That's why it's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. So maybe that would answer your question. They would send it out to tell you exactly which day it is. Since Rosh Hashanah is 2 days, right? Which day are you counting from? You counting from the first day, or that would answer your question. Like we said in Beitza, right? That's Yom HaRichta, good.
Yeah.
So again, so if it's is it which day you're counting one from? The first day of Rosh Hashanah or the second day of Rosh Hashanah?
First day of Rosh Hashanah is never the last day of Elul.
No, he says that it is. It's no, and he says that we still made it 2 days though, and the Goyla we kept 2 days. Maybe the problem of since they're going to come, we're talking. They bought the wrong carbon. Yeah, the whole Gemara and Bates on that. So this could be again. It's a good question. So, El is chasa, so it's chasa, right? Again, but that we know the calendar, but still, at that time they didn't know the calendar. Right.
Most of the year is Pesach.
No, it's 354. 354. 354. It's approximately. It varies. It varies. Okay. Anyway, Al Kislev Mnei Chanukah, V'al Adam Mnei Purim, Kshay Beis Hamikdash Kayim, Yotzim Af Al Iyar Mnei Pesach Cotton. They become Pesach Sheni. They go out in Iyar as well. Okay. Fred Gemara. Now you told me they go. What? Again, it could be the Chasra Malay, right? It could be off by a day.
No, I mean, it's only for a carbon. There's nothing you do in the if you're going in, you're going for. You're only going to bring the carbon if you missed the first one, so you have to be Yerushalayim.
Yeah. So they would go out and tell them Eir is to show up in Yerushalayim. You have to know when Eir is.
It's only 1 or 2 days.
But you have to know when Eir starts to be able to when to go to Yerushalayim. Right?
They don't want to stay there next night in the hotel, I guess. Okay.
V'leifik nami atamas. Now you're telling me they went out on what on Av to find out about. You're worried about the tinus, right? So there were other tinesim. Falefik nami atamuz v'teves. Why don't they go on Tamas v'teves? The Omar of Chana Bar Bizna, Omar Reb Shimon Chasida, my dichse, very famous pasuk. Koyma Hashem tzvakos. Soyma Revi, the fourth fast, with Soyma Chamishi and the fifth fast, with Soyma Shvi and the seventh fast, with Soyma Asiri and the 10th fast. Yeh lebeis Yehuda l'sasan l'simcha will beat the Beis Yehuda for happiness. Now, Korilat Soyim the Korilat Sasan b'simcha. So bisman sheyesh shalom, when there's shalom, yeyu l'sasan u'lesimcha. These days will be the sasan l'simcha. There won't be no reason for going edvad and keeping them. Ain't shalom. If there's no shalom, then soim you fast. So in other words, right now we haven't dealt with the numbers. We simply dealt with the steer in lashon from soim to sasan and simcha. So when there's it's shalom and there's no reason for tsoim, then it's sasan and simcha. Conversely, when there's no shalom, then there's tsoim. However, Amar of Papa Hachi Kamar, Bisman sheyesh shalom, yiyel sasan l'simcha, yesh gezeres hamalchus tsoim, ein gezeres hamalchus, ve'ein shalom, ratzim misanin, ratzim misanin. So if you're not oppressed, if you want, right, then you could fast or not fast. It's up to you. It's up to you. Fred Gemari Hachi Tesbav Nami also should be up to you. Amar Papa Shani Tesbav. By Sarais. Since what? We have Sarais, we doubled up on destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so there's the Mishnah Brura. The Mishnah Brura I'm going to read to you. This is very interesting. I found very fascinating. It says, Hakol chayavim l'sanos arbat soimes halolu v'asal if it's good. It can't be part together and not fast. And then he brings down a pregnant woman, a nursing woman. These halachas you're familiar with. However, for us to live for Tzgeda, Rotzaloima, Afagav the Maskinon, Bigamora, the Bisman, the Ein Motsu, Gezeris, of the Kachovim al Yisrael, Toli Adav of Rotzin Yisrael, the Hainu in Rotza, Roiv Yisrael, the Skimu, Shalai Lisanos, the Hagimel Saimois, or just Biyadon. In other words, this Gemara says what? If we want to, we don't have to. Right? We don't have to. We don't have to. Gemara is saying we don't have to. So the Mishnah Brewer is saying that the V'osa lifritz geder. What's the pirate's geder? There's a heter not to fast. Guys, there's a heter not to fast. This Gemara is the heter not to fast. If you're not oppressed and things aren't so bad, you don't have to fast. So says the Mishnah Brewer that even though the Gemara matters it, kasva poiskim, the achshav kvar Ratzui the kiblu aleim klal Yisrael midar v'dar the asul this is geder. In other words, we makabel these tanesim and we keep these tanesim despite the fact that there's no reason we can really do away with them. So it's very very fascinating that this is brought down halacha. That's so yes, can so taka bisman said why do we fast? And the answer is because we accept the is to make these tanesim. Sarvateves, Sam Gedalia, and Shivas Batamas. Those three. Tu ba'av, no. Test ba'av, no. Tish b'av, no. Tish b'av, there's no option because what? Because it was kafel. In fact, Taisus Akasha, B'yoyim Shivas Batamas Nami, Yirach Hamisha Devarim, Kidid Nami Perek Basu the Tainis. 5 things happen on the ship. So it's speaking about a kfelis, a double, triple. So many. So how can you do away with Shivas Batamas? You're telling me the reason you're not doing away with Tisha B'av because it's double. Over there, it's also there's 5 things that happen. They plan over it, slim, a bunch of things. And for the Gemara, and for Toises, Avachum Beis Hamikdash Tkifa Tuva. For one teretz, it was very powerful. It was very, very. It happened twice for Oid. Like Domi test of the Sora Achas hook full of boy. Those were different Soras. Turnus is plowed over. They sieged the city. They were different Soras. Over here, the same Sar was hookful. It was destroyed on the first one on Tesbav and the second one on Tesbav, right? So therefore, there's not that it was double, but the double of what of the Tsar. So very, very, very interesting. Domamar b'Tesbav chorev abayis b'Rishayna. So I have written over here. This is for Rabbi Avi and everyone else who wants to listen. Guys, listen to this. B'Tesbav chorev abayis b'Rishayna. I wrote on the slide of my Gemara. Upela ployim the Nafel Tespa of Shnas Tuf Shin Nun Tes, right? In the year 1999, we did this daf. Tisha B'Av was this daf. It gets better. At the end of the daf, I have another thing. And that day in 1999, Tuf Shin Nun Tes, that day was Tisha B'Av. So of course we didn't learn that day, but that night we did, right? That was, Ben, you don't remember? Okay. No? You were going out of your mind. Yeah. No, my favorite one was we made a semen on Avodah Zarah on December 24th. That was my favorite. That was my favorite. Yeah, Tinius finished on Shavas B'Tammuz. I saw B'Tavis, yeah. Okay, says the Gemara right there. Right? V'nilkeda Beitar. Beitar was captured. V'nech Rosh Ha'ir, and the city was plowed over. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon, Arba Devarim Hoya Rabbi Akiva Doirish. In the sixth parak, the Sefta Saita, I looked it up today. It's a little vague. Different things that Rabbi Akiva Darshan and his Talmud, his great Talmud of Shimon Bar Yochai, disagreed with him. Arba Devarim Hoya Rabbi Akiva Doirish. Ani ein Doirish Kamaisa. I don't darshan with him. And then this is the one we need. Soimer Ravi. Now, we learned the fourth sign. Rabbi Akiva, guys, is going to learn the sign that takes place in the fourth month. So you have over here, look at the pasuk. Go back to the top, 2 lines from the top. Sign Ravi, sign Chamishi, sign Shvi, sign Asiri, right? So you have 4, 5, 7, and 10. So watch. Some Aravi said Tes B'Tammuz. The fourth month is Tammuz. Sheboy Hufgoyir, the city was sieged. Shenemar B'Tishul L'Chaydesh V'Yechzek Arav Be'ir. There was a siege, but the Boko ear and it was broken through. But my Karile Revi, why do we call this the fourth sign? Revi L'Chadashim. It took place in Tammuz, which what? Nisan year 7 Tammuz. Sign Chamishi, of course, is Av. Zet Tisha B'Av Sheboy Nisra Beis Elokeinu. But my Karile Chamishi L'Chadashim. Sign Hashvi, right? That's what? That's Tishrei. Zet Gimel B'Tishrei. Shaboy never Gedalia ben Achikam. Umi Hargu, who killed Gedalia, is Yishmael ben Netanya. Right? Gedalia ben Achikam, fellas, was the governor of Klal Yisrael after the Churban. After the Churban. And he was killed. Fighter. That go ahead, we're telling this in the same time that the death of a tzaddik is a paramount that equals what? That the burning of the Beis Hamikdash, because we're putting it in the same pasuk, literally, as the Churban Bayis. My curly Shvi L'Chadashim. Soima Asiri, Ze Asar B'Teves. That's Asar B'Teves. Now, Asar B'Teves is happened before, guys. Asar B'Teves happened before. So even though in monthly order there's a chronology, but in historical perspective it's out of order. He came and surrounded Yerushalayim. Right. Shenemar vayhidavar Hashem Elai b'shana shias b'chodesh asiri v'esel achodesh lemor ben Adam kasav l'Hashem ayom es etzem ayom hazeh samach baba melech baba al Yerushalayim. Now, the haloi hoyu roy zel lichtev rishon. This should have been written first, right? V'lama nichtav kan k'dei lahastir chadashim k'tiknon, to go ahead and make the chadashim all come through right in the same order. So that was Rabbi Akiva's drasha. Saim Revi was it was Shavas B'Tammuz. Saim Chamishi was Tisha B'Av. Saim Shvi was Gedalia ben Achikam, Saim Gedalia, and Saim Asiri was Asar B'Teves. Even though it's the last one's out of order. I don't say that. I, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, do not say that. Ella Saim Asiri Zech. In other words, I agree with him the other three, but Saim Asiri Zech Hamesh B'Teves, not Asar B'Teves, but the 5th day of Teves. Shebo Basu Shmuel Legoila. Now, we know that before the Churban, 12 years before, Yechanya went into Golus. We're going to the Chosh V'Kotzer. He took him to Golus, right? The Nebuchadnezzar sent the great people of Eretz Yisrael into Golus, our greatest people. They didn't know, they didn't have internet. They didn't have social media. They didn't have. They found out. They got the news of the Churban bias on Hey Teves. That's where they found out about it. Now, chronologically, then you would have the order. Then chronologically, then you'd have the order. Okay. It was the 12th year, and the 10th day of the 5th month. The 5th day of the 10th month. The fugitive came from Yerushalayim. Lamar Huksa Ir, the city was destroyed. They made the day of hearing it like the day of it, that it burnt. My words, says Rav Shimon, apparently make more sense than Rabbi Kiva's. He switches the order. Right? Okay. Let's say the Chadashim, he goes according to the order of the months. Let's say the Peronius, I go to the order of the destruction. Itma. Now, there's a Megillah called Megillus Tainus. Megillus Tainus. It's not what you think. It's not the Megillah on the days that you fast. It's the Megillah on the days you don't fast, because Nisim happened in those days. Nisim happened. The Gemara in Shabbos, the Gemara in Shabbos describes who wrote it. I don't recall, but it's called the Megillah because you weren't allowed to write down Torah. Torah was Torah Shebechsad. You weren't allowed to write anything down, so they had to put it in a Megillah. But I heard today from Rabbi Bornstein, he said a Gevaldika, he quoted a sefer called Eshel Avraham, which is a pirish on Megillus on Megillus Tainus. Listen to what he says, guys. Listen to this. There's a famous question: how come there's no Masechta Chanukah? The whole sugya of Chanukah is Masechta Shabbos. Right? In Baba Madlikin, there's the sugya, right? But there's no Masechta. So there's some really weird answers. One of the weirdest answers is that Rabbi was a Chashmonaim. Rabbi was from Yehuda, and the Chashmonaim usurped the Malchus from Yehuda. So Rabbi didn't want to go ahead and mention Chanukah. So Azoivite people says the person who wrote Eshel Avram. What was his name? Do I have a name over here? No. He says that he thinks, since in Megillus Tainus you have the whole story of Hanukkah, that is the Masechta Hanukkah. So it's unnecessary for everybody to write it. If you look at Megillus Tainus, there's 30 days there, Megillus Tainus, that you can't fast. 30 days, right? And India, you have the whole story of Hanukkah. So Rebbe held it was unnecessary to go ahead, and that was Luli Mustafini's Chiddush. That was in fact the same story. Anyway, here's the story. Was Megillus Tainus still in vogue or not? Meaning, are you able to fast on those days or not? If it's still in vogue, you can't fast on those days. If it's not in vogue, you could. Says the Gemara, Itmar, Rav and Rabbi Chanina are of the opinion, Amri, Butlu Megillus Tainus. They said it's Butlu, and therefore you can fast on any day. Rav Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amri, Loi Butlu Megillus Tainus. You cannot fast on those days. Rav Rabbi Chanina, Amri, Butlu Megillus Tainus, Hachi Kamar. Bisman sheyesh shalom yeh l'sasan l'simcha. When there's shalom, these days will be the sasan l'simcha. Ain't shalom tzoim. V'hanach nami kihani. And now there's no shalom, you can fast, right? In other words, guys, those days, why are we bringing this in? We said above, right? We said when we had a stira. Says tzoim and sasan b'simcha in the pasuk in Zechariah, right? How do you reconcile these two different emotions? Fasting and sasan b'simcha. So bisman tzoim, then everything's okay. No tzoim, sasan b'simcha. So Memela said Rav and Reb Chanina, they said since we're tzoim, those days also there's tzoim. Hani, the days just like those days when there's guys. Let me on the day of Gedaliah ben Achikam's death, when there's shalom, right? What do you do? Sasa v'simcha, right? Happiness. When there's no tzoim and shivas v'tamas, there's sasa v'simcha. Good. Bisman, there's no sasa v'simcha, then there's tzoim. So Mamela, all the other days of Megillus Tainus where you can't fast is the same thing as those other days, Sam Gedalia Shivas B'Tamas, where you can't fast. But since you could fast on those days because there's Tzoim, who adin, the days of Megillus Tainus, you also can fast. That's the svara of Rab and Reb Chanina. So Ein Shalom Tzoim, Hanach Nami Kihani, and Hanach Nami of Megillas Tainis Kihani are like Shivas B'Tamis and Sem Gedalia and Aseret Shabbateves. Rabbi Yochanan Yeshua ben Levi, I mean, no, Loi Bal Megillas Tainis. Hani Hu de Talina Rachmana B'Binya Beis Hamikdash. Hani meaning all those have to do with the Churban, Sem Gedalia. And it personified the end of the Medina, meaning that was the finish of the Yishuv as soon as they killed him, and Shivas B'Tamas, they broke through the city, and Asar B'Teves, they sieged the city, and they all had to do with the Churban bias. But that's why Soim and Sasa V'Simcha. Mashenkin, these had nothing whatsoever to do with them, so they're not connected. Since they don't have to do, the theme is not related to Churban bias, the male of the ability to go ahead and start fasting on the days is also not related, and therefore you can't fast. Therefore you can't fast according to what? Rabbi Yochanan Yeshua ben Levi. Okay, Maser Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana is going to ask a kasha on Rav and Rav Chanina, who says that you can fast. Maisa, the Gosru Tainus B'Chanukah Belud. There was a Maisa, and they were Gosru Tainus and Chanukah Belud. Now Chanukah, guys, is one of the 30 days in Megillas Tainus, right? And they were Gosru Tainus and Lud. So now, what happened? The Yori Rebbe Eliezer v'Rochatz on the Tainus, he washed. Rabbi Yeshua, right? The Siper v'Amru Lehem Su Vis Anu. He took a haircut. Rabbi Yeshua took a haircut. The Amru and Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Yeshua, V'Amru Lehem. They, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, said to the people in Lud, so go Vis Anu and fast. Al Mashis and Anitem. Go ahead and fast on your fasting. In other words, it's not bottle. It's not bottle. So you're fasting and you're fasting. What are you doing? Do tshuva. Rashi says, His anu kloima asu tshuva. Do tshuva on that you fasted. So clearly, you see what did Rebbe Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua hold? You can't fast on Chanukah. So what do you see? That how could Rav and Rabbi Chanina argue on Tanoim, Rebbe Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua? So you see they were wrong. Rabbi Yosef shiny Chanukah dika mitzvah. The mitzvah is the mitzvah out of the neiros. Amle Abaya Nisa Moisiv, right? I think I skipped. Amle Abaya v'tibatel ihi v'tibatel mitzvasa. Be mevatel. Guys, take away Chanukah and take away the mitzvah. Say Elo Rabbi Yosef shiny Chanukah the mefarsem Nisa. Chanukah is different. Why? Because it's mefarsem Nisa. It's well known. Right? Rashi says, "Kvar hu goli l'chol Yisrael ayidei shenobu hamitzvahs epziku boy kishel Torah v'leinochen levatlei." In other words, right now I'm telling you that there's 30 days in Megillas Tainus you can't fast. How many can you name? Chanukah, right? So you see, it's kavam mefursim. So therefore, mefursim you came mevatl. But enoch nami the other days what you could. Anyway, Rabbi, you're sitting. Zois Chanukah Shnas Tafshin Samech Zayin. This daf fell on Zois Chanukah, the last day of Chanukah, Tafshin Samech Zayin, the year 2006. So this is a lot. 1999. It had 1999. We had Tisha B'Av. 7 years later, it was the Chanukah, which makes a lot of sense. It's like 7.5 year cycle. So it fell in it. It's amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. How are we doing with time? Okay, we can stop over here. Okay, tomorrow, guys, the share is going to be posted because I have a wedding. There's a wedding in Lakewood it's a wedding in Lakewood that I'm going to. We wish a Hatzka Mazel Tov to Ben Shi Baruch Ben Meya on the chasna of his youngest son Yisrael Yitzchak. The Shidduch Shbi Eliyafa. They should be Zaycha Divine. The bias name and be Yisrael.